Welcome to Isis in the Bible. The whole Bible is about the woman who meets with her son, you, on the stations of the cross, also known as the stations of the zodiac. Our topic for the day for Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023 is, I want to be a star. Are you serious? And here comes, the cat just came here. We're going to go over what's happening in the sky. And the question for the day is, can you name a star? And can you tell us a little bit about this star? We went through a great discussion. We'll put, as usual, we'll put the answers when we edit the video. So you're made from light, right? Looking to the sky on a starlit night out in the country is a feel good, right? Got to be some sort of connection between the stars and love. Thank you for joining us at the Lighthouse and on Zoom. Okay, so what's happening in the sky right now? We're going to jump in and we're going to see there's a whole lot of action going on in Pisces. And the Phoenix rising is on April 15th, 2023. So we're all Piscean. We're from this age. So depending on your natal chart, that's how you're going to be affected, right? And you can see Neptune, which brings great energies, is on the cusp. And so is Isis, Eris, Madonna, McTucklewaddle, whatever you want to call her, the divine feminine here. So Neptune, Madonna on an energetic cusp. Neptune into Pisces. You got Venus, Vesta, the moon right now, which will transit out in a couple of days. Jupiter, Chiron, and of course, Mary Magdalene, Nephthys. And you know that I keep reminding on February 28th, they align, which is important for your own personal growth. Because it's your own energy coming in saying, how you doing? It's your little child talking to you. So, but somebody asked, but what's happening for the week? Can you let me know? So I thought it was definitely a synchronicity.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Judith.
I keep getting, what does it mean when you say that? It's like I'm getting the sun, 1, Mercury, 3, 7, Saturn. You ask, what is the happening in the sun? What do those 3 mean? I'm just looking at what Alphera means, Alphera on the side.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're looking here. Yeah, these are stars. This is Alpheratz, called the East Star, which is in Pisces. That's what that is. And Alpherg is another one that's in Aries. These are stars.
So are they connected in any way to do with the sun, the Mercury, and the Saturn?
Are these ones connected to Mercury and Saturn? It all depends if they're an aspect with it and an aspect in your natal chart.
Oh.
Right, because these are fixed stars and these are the wandering stars.
They are fixed
Which we call planets.
Stars.
Yeah, they call planets, asteroids, all this other thing, but they're the same thing. They're a light, they're a star, and they wander, and they give us our experiences and give us everything that we need.
Okay. Okay.
So we just said Juno's going to meet with Eris right here, right? This is Juno, this is Eris. They're going to meet together. That's the 2 Marys. That's the 2 women in every culture. They're meeting on the February 28th. So you got Venus is about to transit this week. Vesta, Venus represents love. Don't forget, this circle with a cross is the Ankh that the Egyptians hold, pure love. This is the morning star and the evening star because she circles around the sun. And then Vesta of the Vestal Virgins, the moon, Jupiter, which is law expansion, Chiron, the wounded healer, and the 2 Marys. Important for people, a lot of people are going to feel some waves because Hygeia is the goddess of cleanses. This is the glyph of the caduceus that the medical industry used to use. Okay, because she in a chart, when you're doing proper medical astrology, she creates a Kundalini cleanse, like full body. It can feel invigorating and it can feel, oh, not so invigorating, depending on where you're at with cleansing your own body. Is it full of love in everything you do? She's going to align with Pluto. We'll talk more about what Pluto is because Pluto is Osiris and you and your regeneration. The story of Osiris and Horus switching, no different than a grandfather and his son and his next son. So they're going to be aligning this week. And that's in Capricorn. Capricorn's 1 foot in the water, 1 foot in the land. And Capricorn's also the knees. So if people have some really, all of a sudden their knees are starting to go, it's a wave. Let it go. Take some natural herbs to help you out till the wave goes away. Oh yeah, and they're only not shown on the chart here, but Lilith and Ceres are both in retrograde. Ceres is the harvester. So she can test people with their thoughts, all right? And not wanting to be here. Remember, it's just a wave. So if people ever feel that kind of thing, I'm not saying anybody in this room, but somebody that's watching on YouTube, just know these are waves and it's all in your chart and they come and they go. So in general, these two will be testing. Many on being pure, while others are being empowered, those whose heart is as light as a feather. So I thank again the person who sent me the request of what's happening in the sky. So we're going to talk about the dog days of summer and Sirius. These are the two that everybody's seeing at night. These two right here. These are the ones that are seeing, and it's part of Canis Major. So Sirius is the brightest star in the sky, bar none. It represents the child within, the Christ within. That's why they also call that Isis's star, Mary's star, the mother's star. You got the sun is the material, and Sirius is you in the spiritual. So that brightest star in the sky, when you look at it and it's blinking really brightly and it feels great, it should. Because that's the nativity scene, if you guys remember, for who've ever been here before. Here's the 3 stars, Orion's belt. There is Sirius, the dog star. And if you can see here, right on December 25th at midnight, this nativity scene is in the sky. And Sirius is the brightest star, and that's the star they're talking about in the nativity scene. The story is about you and you understanding your role on the wheel. It's a reminder for you. So when I say remember, are you thinking, how can I remember? I've not seen this before, but you have. Remember, we're coming out of spiritual Alzheimer's. You used to know this. We used to know this. And this is part of getting to know it. You use love and it all starts making sense. That we are part of this whole thing. It's one. The way modern science talks about how vast everything is, it's in. That's just a projection of us out that helps us to remember to go in to love. It's that simple. The other way it used to give me anxieties looking out to the sky and thinking that it would kept going forever, because it doesn't. We can see that far and then the rest is in. Some are dimmer, but that doesn't mean they're farther. They're not. They're there in the firmament. I want to talk about this constellation, Canis Major, which has got the brightest star in the sky, Sirius, which is your inner child, right? The child. That's why the nativity scene has Mary and the child. That's mother love and you. So I want to read a couple things for you. It was classically depicted as Orion's dog. That's Canis Major. The ancient Greeks thought that Sirius's emanations could affect the dogs adversely, making them behave abnormally during the dog days, the hottest day of the summer. The Roman knew these days as Days Canicularis, and the star Sirius was called Canicula, little dog. The excessive panting of dogs in hot weather was thought to place them at risk of desiccation and disease, in extreme cases of foaming dog. The hottest day of the year, that when Sirius is exactly aligned with the sun, you can't see it because it's behind the sun or in front of the sun or aligned with the sun, however you want to imagine it. So the dogs, it's the hottest day for them and they can have a reaction to that. So the dog is related there. All the images on the Egyptian walls are about gods. Well, dog and God are just the exact mirror of each other, right? Dog and God. Dog is man's best friend. Man, it's a masculine. The cat is the feminine. The dog is the masculine. So of course the masculine is going to feel the worst when it's the hottest, right? And then the sun being aligned with the bright star in Canis Major affects the dogs. So you can see how it all lines up. And that was from Sirius Worship in Various Religions, spacetheology.blogspot.com. Another reading, the dog star was the announcer of the coming inundation, the flood of the Nile. This is going to be really important because the flooding of the Nile River is what we're going to talk about today and how it's related to Isis, Eris, Madonna, the divine feminine that's coming back. The great mother was said to be the dog or to dwell in the dog star. This is the child within. It's all part of pure love. The Cherokees have the legend of the deluge, in which the dog prophesizes the flood. And he does. Isis, the ancient, is she whose son is the sun. And the Madans and the Mexican tribes had their old woman who never died, whose son was also the sun. So she's coming back to save her son, the material son. Sirius is the inner child, your inner child. So they're all related. So what does the river Nile flooding represent, both physically and metaphysically? And that's what we're going to be talking about. They are 100% related to your being. They're 100% tied to you obtaining this wisdom that you can get your wings. If you want to climb Jacob's ladder, if you want to belong in a world that is absolutely amazing, it just shifts for you. I'm going to do that one of these weeks. While this gravy train's going by, you can change your world 100%. It's written on the Egyptian walls. So the earth's period, I'm going to stick a couple Bible quotes in here. Resurrecting the spirit within, chapter 29, book of Ezekiel, verse 3. Speak and say, thus says the ruling goddess. Remember, I changed out Lord to ruling goddess. Behold, I am against you, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lies in her midst of her streams, that says, my Nile is my own. I made it for myself. There are many verses about the Nile turning red, many stories about the Nile River turning red. The Nile River is related to the earth's period, mother's period. As above, so below, as within, so without. The whole earth is actually 100% has to mimic the woman and the womb. So there are also a whole bunch of verses about the Nile drying up. Same thing happens with a woman. Doesn't her period stop? They lose their period at some point during the beginning portion of the 9 months, right? Book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 15, 51, 52. This one came from Kat, actually. Thank you, Kat. Behold, I tell you a mystery. We will not all sleep, but we will all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet will sound and the dead will be raised imperishable, and we will be changed, induced by love from within. So Revelation talks about this quick change, and so does all over the Bible. There's going to be a quick change. And that's just us. We're going to change from within. Now it's up to us on how we want to grasp that and how we want to adhere to that. Resistance is resisting love, being love in every moment. So we're upon this, and it's this year. So people ask, is there going to be a flood? What do you think has been happening? It's a metaphysical flood. It's a spiritual flood. Isn't there a whole bunch of people gaining their consciousness? It's just beautiful. Spending less time in the rabbit holes. We got to let go of those images. I went down the rabbit hole. I shared a lot of images that I wish I didn't. But I'm going to go and delete them. Ernie walked in. Hi, Ernie. So let's look at the physics of a flood. So you guys remember that the Nile River floods? If you don't remember, you used to know. This flood that happens in the River Nile, okay, it happens every year, and it's a cycle. So the year is the same as the woman's month, right? It causes devastation for some people, the locals. So this flood happens every year. But what's interesting, some of you may have seen this before, it happens always in mid-July. It's really important, this mid-July, because this is part of the clock that helps us show us the zodiac. And when we meet with Mama on the 12 stations of the cross. So this is part of the cosmic clock, the ebb and flow. We'll talk more about that. And if you remember some of the slides we've showed in previous, that there's twice when we do fireworks. Once is in January, New Year's Eve, and once in July. Well, both of those are the ebb and flow of Eris, Isis, Madonna when she goes direct and retrograde. That little motion she does like Venus being the evening star and the morning star, because Venus is the mini-me of Eris, the Madonna. She's Mother Nature. So that ebb and flow back and forth is like, you know, ever see a clock go cluck, cluck, cluck on the gears, these old clocks, right? That's what Isis does. That's what Eris does. That's what Madonna does with every time she moves her ebb and flow. It moves the clock. So I'm going to start with July 16th, 2020. And we'll talk about how this gets to be more important and how that clock works. On July 16th, 2020, this was part of our Corona cleanse was happening, right? It started on January 12th, 2020 with the great conjunction with Pluto, Saturn, the Sun, Mercury, and Ceres on the Milky Way. But look where it's at on July 16th, right when the river Nile floods. Mama's period, okay, the great lady's period on July 16th, 2020. Look, it's really important. The sun moved into 0-degree Cancer. This is exactly what's happening in the sky now. You can't see this. 90% of the astrologers can't see this because they're not using the proper settings that's written on the Egyptian walls and what's happening in the sky. On that day, when the river Nile flood, the sun is at 0-degree Cancer. And this is the natal position of Sirius. So both suns are aligned there, where the sun used to be, the Sirius used to be. Due to precession, it's not there right now, but it always remembers its home. You have Pluto, Vega. Vega is exactly, remember that we did some videos on the harp playing? You know, it kept me saying, Vega the harp player, Vega the harp player, Vega the harp player. Well, she's exactly across from Sirius all the time. So on this day, Pluto, that represents your dad, Osiris, you exchanging, reincarnating. That's what Pluto represents. That's Osiris in the story, in the Egyptian walls of Osiris and Isis. We'll talk about that in a bit. And then, of course, Mother Mary was sitting there because she's going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and she's coming to stay in Aries. So this is part of our Phoenix rising. So look at this beautiful square that's happening. Look at this alignment that happened, telling us part of the birthing process, part of the Phoenix rising process, part of our enlightenment. This is all on the Egyptian walls, folks. And this happens in the sky. They just tell us to look up. There's an image, and I'll add it later, where I finally figured out what Leonardo da Vinci is doing. I forget the name of it, but he's pointing to the sky and he's holding a crystal ball. On that crystal ball, somebody just mentioned it, and I'll credit that person. His name escapes me, but you can see three white dots on there representing the stars on the firmament. So he's saying, if you want a crystal ball in life, look to the stars. That's what he's saying. I mean, all his artwork, the Vitruvian Man is the Phoenix rising. The Last Supper is the zodiac. It's all there. They've been trying to tell us. And he was 13 years old, right? When the last Phoenix rising of 1468. So the natal Earth and how the stars shape our Earth is based on precession of the equinoxes. And it all stems from Isis. She sets the calendar of events of our infinite dyings on the cross until we get it right. And we want to go back to light, or you want to stay here. It's up to you. It really is up to you. Okay, so I want to just show you her ebb and flow. I used Neptune just to show you because it's hard to zoom in on her and see it. Watch her move back and forth because it's really, really slow. Because it's 558 years to go around one cycle. So I'm just going to show you, this is what happens. Those are stars in the background, and that is Neptune. And I'm just scanning through day by day, and you can see how it goes backwards. See how he's going backwards? And then he'll go frontwards again. So she is going back and forth, 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 okay? In reality, she should be turned the other way. So I'll use this one. Because they're constantly going back and forth, but they're moving forward amongst the stars, okay? That's what they do. So they're going back and forth, back and forth. Pluto does the same thing. But eventually, they go all the way around. That's what all planets do. This one is the one that all cultures knew about. It takes her 558 years to go around, and we cleanse. And we cleanse back to love. And it's no choice. So according to the myth of Isis and Osiris, they came down to earth to bring peace to all. After bringing peace to the people of the Nile Valley, Osiris must teach the rest of the world. That's the story of the message of peace from Egypt, you out to others. The story is that everybody leaves Egypt and comes back physically, but it's not about that. It's about everybody leaves up here in our temple. We leave spiritually, but then we have to come back. So the story goes on to say that Seth destroys Pluto, Osiris, into 14 pieces. And then Isis goes around, finds them in 12 different locations. There's a bunch of different stories because they're trying to look at the story on the Egyptian walls. But what they're really saying is the zodiac. A piece of you and every part of you is in each constellation. Each constellation represents a section of your body and a section that will be cleansed. That's the real story. So the 12 locations is the 12 signs of the zodiac. The 14 pieces comes from reading images like this. This is 14 stages of the moon. These all mean something. We'll be able to remember this again someday. So the Bible and the stories are all misinterpretations of what's on the Egyptian walls, but it's all related to the clock, which all boils down to the Phoenix rising. There's nothing else you really need to know, and it's happening now. So that's why I keep focusing on this, right? To let everybody know. So that's from the temple of Khnum at Esna. Okay, don't be afraid about this chart. It's easy. So this is July. So July 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, all the way up to the 22nd. All right? And these are the dates, the years in which she is doing her, okay? When she's going back and forth. Right now, she's going to be aligned, because you remember the mid-July date? Mid-July date, she was here. And then right now, she's where Sirius rises before the sun. So when you see the brightest star in the sky rise before the sun, then that means a halical rising. So the sun keeps going this way, right? It's always going this way amongst the stars, all right? But I'm going to move the Sirius instead of the sun. So as the sun gets closer and closer and closer to Sirius, right about here, it's called the duat. You can no longer see the star, right? Because the sun's washing it out. When you look to the sky every time, you're going to see a different star, a different location at a different time, because the sun's moving. People say the earth's spinning. Don't do that. Just go by perception. You get confused when you do an earth spinning ball thing. Just go by the sun's moving, because when you look at the stars seem to be moving against the sun because the sun is moving and not the earth around the sun. So anyway, so here it is, boom, you cannot see Sirius. When it gets to here, it's the dog days of summer. The dogs go crazy because it's aligned with Sirius. The sun is aligned with Sirius, the hottest days of the earth. They call that the dog days of summer, because the dog, right? We told you about the dog, right? The Canis Major, that constellation where Sirius is in, dog days of summer. And then Sirius rises. So now when Sirius rises before the sun, it's called the halical rising, and the Nile River floods. So Eris aligns now. She's going retrograde the exact same time the Nile River floods. I've been telling people, I don't know why there was a bump in the 70s with peace and love. And everybody started writing freedom songs because they thought it was over. They thought she was back. But that's because she was with Procyon. And Procyon is, the meaning of Procyon is before the dog. This star rises before the river Nile floods. So this is how the ancients used to know the river Nile was going to flood. As soon as they see Procyon, they say, okay, let's batten down the hatch, because Sirius is about to rise, because they can't see it because it's behind the sun, or being washed out by the sun. So I'm throwing this on the Dendra zodiac now, right? Because this equinox is really important. We can skip rungs on Jacob's ladder for sure. We'll talk about that in a future video, but to do that, it's got to be love. But in the meantime, just be loving and know the signs. So look at Osiris and Horus, right? Pluto's at the top. The sun's at the bottom. This is on the domain of Horus. That's Horus, the hawk. And this is Sirius's home. So again, it's shown on the Egyptian walls. The sun aligned here where the nativity scene is, the winter solstice. Horus, the all-seeing eye, sitting on this marker. The mother's here in the Phoenix rising position. Here is the headless one waiting to be crowned with the all-seeing eye. We're all getting revelation. That's important. So that July, the 16th, 2020, was an important event leading up to this whole event. So here's the glyphs of Isis, Eris. She's on the cross right now because we can see her, or else she would be without the cross, and an arrow pointing to the middle. The point in the middle, pure inertia, rest, light. You pass a light through a little hole, you get a laser, right? It becomes more pure, more powerful. So this is Venus, Hathor, Mother Nature. She's on the cross. So this is the mini-me. Venus is one of the brightest stars, wandering stars in the night sky and in the morning sky, traveling around the sun, keeping an eye on the sun. And here's Pluto, Osiris. Hang on a second, Carol's calling me. Hi, Carol.
No, I can't get back in.
That's so cute. Her power went out and she can't get on. So this is look at the symbol of Pluto, which is Osiris, because it's all about Isis and Osiris, and then having the sun Horus, which is the hours on the clock, the sun, right? You can see the Venus, the Ankh, is being busted open, and then you get a circle. See, so I kind of blew it up here to kind of show you. This is the new sun, a Phoenix rising. So Pluto is part of that Phoenix rising, is Osiris. Your mom and dad, there's your mom, there's your dad, and there's you, who reincarnates from dad. So that's happening in the sky, folks. You're upon a Phoenix rising. You're upon you getting enlightenment. So just know that that little back and forth motion, she eventually finally gets to exactly when Sirius is rising. So when her retrograde motion aligns with Sirius rising, we have a Phoenix rising. So she aligns with the period of Mother Earth to give us this enlightenment. Sure, we could say, well, who cares? Let's just be enlightened. I'm totally okay with that. You don't need to know. But there's a lot of people out there who won't believe unless they see it. That's why we do it. So, okay, I got a little video and then we're going to head to discussion.
Child of God, he was walking along the road, and I asked him, tell me, where are you going? Yes, he told me. Said, I'm going down to Yesterday's farm, gonna join in a rock and rollin'. Got to get back to the land, set my soul free. We are stars, we are golden, we are carbon, and we got to get ourselves back to the garden. Let's